Okay, so looking at question number 12 from the benchmark. So remember, if you see a table of data or a graph or a scatter plot, the paragraph above it is just telling you what the table or the graph or scatter plot is about. And you can get all that information from looking at the title, looking at what they are labeling the rows or the columns in your table, or looking at your X and Y axis. So I can see that this is about a baby rhinoceros's feeding schedule. We're talking about age in weeks. Those are our X values. And then our Y values are measuring the percentage of body mass. So the question is asking us, what is the best prediction of percentage of the baby rhinoceros's body mass that should be used to determine the amount of food given in each feeding when it is 25 weeks old? Okay, when they are asking us for a prediction, that means that they are asking us for either an X value or a Y value. Okay, so that means that they are going to have to give us one of these two values in the question. So I'm going to look, and then I see 25 weeks old here. So now I just have to use my skills to decide, is this an X value or a Y value? Well, if we're talking about weeks, weeks is a measurement of time. And if you remember, I told you that time is always an X value. So what they're telling you is that X is equal to 25. So now I have a better idea of what I need to do, because if they give me an X value, what is it that they could be asking me for? The Y value. So that means I need to go to a table. But before I can go to a table in my calculator, I'm going to need an equation. And they did not give us an equation. They gave us a scatter plot and they gave us a table. Well, we can use this table to get an equation from our calculator. So I'm going to go to my calculator, and I'm going to go to stat, enter, and I'm going to type in my data. Now remember, for a horizontal table, X is the top row, Y is the bottom row. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Uh-oh, it's not in order. I got to pay attention. 1, 2, that should be 4, 7, 9, 12, 14, 15, 17, and 20. Okay, now I'm going to enter in L2, and you want to make sure you're really careful with your Y values when you are typing it in, because if you mistype a number, your calculator is not going to give you the line of best fit for your data, or the equation that you need for your data. Okay, do a quick check here. 2019 was 17, 15, 14, 13, 11, and 9. Okay, so after you type in your data and you've made sure that your information is accurate, you're going to go to stat, right arrow, and here we've got to pick either option 4 for linear, 5 for quadratic, or 0 for exponential. And it tells me in the problem that this is a linear function, so I need to pick option 4 in my calculator. I'm going to arrow down to calculate, and I'm going to press enter, and now I'm going to write my data down. I'm going to say A is equal to negative 0.5448. I'm going to stop at the fourth place value, because if I look at the next number in my calculator, it's a 1, and a 1 is not going to make an 8 round up. So that's why I picked that place value. And then B is equal to 19.8025. And I took this out to 5 place values again because I looked after the 5 and there was a 0, and that was just a good place to stop rounding. I wanted to go more than one place value just for accuracy, so my line of best fit would be fit the data a little bit better, and my prediction would be a little bit closer to these answer choices that we have here. So now remember, this is Y equals negative 0.5448x plus 19.80 265. So there's my equation, and so if I'm going to make a prediction, I've got to go to my calculator. So scoot this up just a little bit so you can see. So I'm going to go to Y equals, I'm going to type in negative 0.5448x plus 19.80265, and now I'm going to go to my table, and now I'm going to scroll all the way down to when X is 25. And I get 6.1827. So I get 6.1827 0.127 percentage for my body mass. So now I need to look at my answer choices and see which answer is closest to 6.1827, because remember, it's a prediction, so it's going to be an estimate, so your answers may not exactly match. And I can clearly see that the closest percentage is answer choice G. Now I wanted to draw your attention to this because in your calculator they kind of give you a clue about your slope value. If you look at your data, it appears that your data is going in the downward direction, which means that the slope is negative for the line of best fit. So if you look at the slope from your equation in the calculator, you can clearly see that our slope is negative, so our line of best fit is matching up with our data. So that's just kind of a self-check for you to use when you are getting an equation for a scatter plot. The sign of your slope should match the direction of your scatter plot. Okay, let's look at question number 16. So again, I'm not going to bother reading all of this unless I need more information, because it's just telling me what I can get from the graph. I know this is about the water level of a river. I know that my X values are counting the number of days, and my Y values are talking about water level in feet, so these are numbers that are measuring the water level. So now I'm going to read my question, and it says, which statement best describes the y-intercept of the graph? Okay, so if I recall what a y-intercept is, it's telling me to look at the y-axis. So that's exactly where I'm going to go. I am going to highlight the y-axis because my answer is going to come from the y-axis and one of these values. And if you remember, your y-intercept is where your graph touches or crosses the y-axis. And so there is my y-intercept. It is at the point 0.16. So at 0 days, so that means when they started measuring, this is going to tell me the water level. And remember, your y-intercept is your initial value. So where did we start at the water level? We started at 16 feet. So I want to look at my answer choices, and I want to see which answer choice has that. It says the water level increased by 25 hundredths feet per day. Well, that's not talking about the water level starting value, so that's out. Maximum water level is 19.5 feet. Well, y-intercept isn't necessarily the maximum, because they didn't ask me about the highest or the maximum. They asked me about the y-intercept. That's the initial value. The initial water level was 16 feet. That sounds like it's the correct answer, so let's just read J for to check through that answer choice. It says the water level was measured for 14 days. Well, they didn't ask us how long. They asked us to look at the y-intercept, and clearly we are not crossing at 14, and days is also an X value. So the y-intercept is not going to be an X value, so the correct answer is H. The initial water level was 16 feet.